The wait is over, folks. The wait is over. Fate Strange Fake Whisper of Dawn has finally arrived, and man, was it worth the wait. I have to admit, I am sold on the show already, and thankfully we already have an announcement for a TV series, which was pretty much assumed. I think back when they first announced this whole OVA thing, the assumption was that it was going to be a full-on series. Like, this is a prologue to a full series, and sure enough, yes, when they finally did air this, we got the announcement. I'm excited for it, because for those who don't know, Fate Strange Fake is written by the creator of Bakano and da-da-da-da, and this guy just knows how to make kind of that modern setting, add magic into a kind of element with everything he's done with both those titles. That's same with Death Mount, Deathplay. That's just literally the writer. But the thing that kind of gets me really excited about this one is I'm getting Fate Zero vibes. I'm getting total Fate Zero vibes here. And that's a good thing, because that's just kind of the feeling that Fate Zero has. It's very dark, it's very gritty, it's very adult. Now, besides one character, which I'll get into in a minute, all these characters feel like they're serious. They have something that they're focusing on, and there's no clue on what exactly the direction this is going to go, and that's what I'm loving. I'm seeing all the factions, I'm seeing everybody's individual desires already from just this, let's call it a prologue. I'm pumped for it. So, yeah, I'm going to get into my full-on thoughts of the series. I just want to get a pre-warning out here. I'm going to talk about pretty much the entire thing, so keep that in mind. I don't think there's really anything to spoil at this moment, because this really does feel like the opening chapter, and nothing really has truly happened except for a bunch of the servants have been summoned, obviously, and I don't know the source material. I've only watched this, so with all that said, full-on spoilers for Whispers of Dawn. Let's jump into it. Opening up Fate Strange Fake, we've pretty much established a couple things here already, and the idea that we're obviously taking place in America now. This is already establishing that the whole thing with Fate Stay Night was the past. They acknowledged that there was this Holy Grail War in Japan, and essentially it seems like the US government themselves is actually enacting a new Grail War in America. You have the Mage Association is trying to figure out, okay, what are they doing? There's signs that something's happening over here. Well, apparently they're trying to create this. Now the question is going to be, what all within the government is actually doing this? It seems like it's indicating that this guy named Orlando, which is a part of this police force, is some sort of big player in the whole thing. He's got Castor working for him, and it seems to imply, based on this random old hag that's hanging out with him, that he is pretty much the one that's puppeteering everything in the background, despite the fact that he is seemingly trying to take it down. But yes, this area is becoming the next Holy Grail War. For those who don't know what Holy Grail Wars are, have never watched anything Fate, it's essentially where a bunch of mages come together and they formulate a Holy Grail War. And once it's sort of been established, once the base has been set, then masters, which are mages, can summon up heroes from the past, and those heroes will fight against each other, and the blood that they shed will eventually fill the cup of the Holy Grail until it's full, and thus the last remaining master servant can have their wish granted. Now here's where things get interesting with Fate Strange Fake versus everything else. This seems to be a broken Holy Grail War. Like, from the very beginning, they're talking about how this is a fake Grail War. This is all them kind of pulling this together and creating this, and they're trying to manipulate in some way. This guy that's working for the government's literally saying there's only 6. I was like, no, there's 7. No. This one, there's only 6. The Saber is always the strongest. That's the one that has the highest probability of winning, so we pretty much got rid of him. It's almost as if they're trying to orchestrate their own Grail War, and they're manipulating it in certain ways. My sense already is that's going to lead to this being just an absolutely broken system, and I'm already seeing signs of that. One, the fact that they claim there's no Saber, but it seems like, I'm assuming, the person they show at the very end is a Saber. But additionally, it's like every single one of these servants, like, pretty much all of them just want their master dead. Like, there's no control here whatsoever. Assassin is brought up, and she literally just kills the entire room. Gilgamesh has no crap. I mean, Gilgamesh is never really giving a crap of whoever's being his master. Let's be perfectly honest. There seems to be an indication that there is a girl named Tsubaki who, I think she has the last servant with her, but it seems like it's implying that it was supposed to be granted to her father. But now it's sort of indicating that it's granted to her. The fact that Tyne, who killed Gilgamesh's master, got his commands It's very weird. They got one guy over here that's literally created a chimera filled with magic circuits to create a catalyst to summon something, and the dog summons Enkidu. Like, nothing about this Grail War seems normal. Now, it's not to say that Grail Wars have to, like, fall within some sort of rule set. They always are broken in some way. But at least, again, it's sort of implying with this one that it's all up in the air. But it still all makes sense. And that's the important thing. That's why I'm liking it, despite it's being very, very weird. And that kind of lends itself to why I'm liking sort of the subplot of at least what seems like who's working in the background to create this system. It implies this guy, Orlando, who works for the police, is orchestrating it in the background. He's got some crazy girl, which I think she's the master of Castor, having Castor create a weapon that can take down Gilgamesh. They're upset because Gilgamesh was summoned, but they're still going to create some sort of thing to counter Gilgamesh. And his whole thing is that he wants to create or fabricate a legendary weapon. So he has Castor down there. I don't know who Castor's going to end up being, but it's implying that Castor can fabricate legendary weapons. At the same time, he has some sort of police force with him that all seem to be humans that he's designed, or they're designing them to wield noble phantasms. So it's not going to just be servants coming to this world, wielding noble phantasms and fighting each other. This guy is almost creating an army of noble phantasms, which again is another little layer to kind of add on to it that I'm assuming they'll tie in with logic of the world itself. But again, they're kind of just throwing everything at the wall right now that almost makes sense to a world that is almost advancing from the knowledge of a Holy Grail War. Okay, now the US is interested in it because obviously they would want the Grail. Well, how do they make sure they ensure they get the Grail? Well, design things that can fight against any servant, because you can't just rely on the servants that you summon. It's very fascinating, and I'm really curious the direction it's going. I liked Gilgamesh's introduction, obviously. The dude that I hate to love, that I love to hate. Gilgamesh is just a jerk. Granted, Babylonia made me love him, but still, this Gilgamesh, you love to hate him. Dude is full of himself, and he's able to be full of himself because he's crazy powerful. But it's interesting to kind of tie him in with the people of the land and the idea of his treasure and how these people have always kind of looked over his stuff. So there's sort of like lineage of the kingdom that he created. At the same time, obviously having to bring Enkidu in the picture, which is obviously going to create a big fight, which I still love that whole scenario there. Enkidu now being controlled by a chimera, which is just bizarre, but sort of fits Enkidu, so I'm sure that whole thing's going to be pretty interesting. I don't know what they're doing with Assassin. This guy that summoned Assassin is apparently immortal. He's got like this big, I don't know, rotary dial phone on his chest that he's able to, I guess, absorb power. And then finally, Jack the Ripper. This is the only thing I don't like. I like El Melloy. I love that whole side series, Rail Zeppelin. I thought that was a really fantastic series. I like the concept of sort of the remaining people of a past Grail War and the effects that it has on him. But Flato is annoying. I don't like his character. And I think I remember seeing him in that series too. And I just try to block him from my mind. But yeah, Flato is sort of just kind of turning into that trope character that it seems like they always have to have in these types of series. It's the Genki, let's all get along. I want to make friends with everybody. I want to do the Grail War because I want to see it. It's got to look amazing. He's like, I wish that he wasn't in this series. Like, he is the only thing I'm not liking being in this series. Hopefully they do something cool with him. We'll see. Jack himself is interesting. The idea that he just doesn't really know himself. He knows what he's called. I can tell him who he is. He's a lolly. Yes, we all know who Jack the Ripper is, so I can solve his problems for him. I don't know. He could be completely different Jack the Ripper. How they perceive what Jack the Ripper is just depending on what story they want to tell. That all comes down to, like I said, my last big question mark, which is who this Tsubaki girl is. When they first showed her in the scene, again, it showed her father. And her father said something to the effect of, the plan's gone into effect. Eventually, all of them will be summoned, and then I'll get my command seals. And this lady put her hand on him, which I'm guessing the mother, put her hand on him, and he started decaying on his arm. And then the father said something to the effect of, Tsubaki still has her organs for reproduction. I don't really know what they're going with there. I don't know if it's tying into possibly stuff that happened in Fate Zero. Maybe he's trying to recreate something from that. But it's a big question mark right now. But it does end up showing Tsubaki, I believe, with command seals. And then there's this big smoke that's hovering around her. The only servant that we haven't seen yet, assuming that this one in the last scene was Saber, is Ryder. That's the only one that we haven't seen yet. Gilgamesh, I'm assuming, is Archer. Enkidu, Lancer. Again, the guy at the end, Saber. The assassin was the one that killed everybody. Jack the Ripper would be Berserker. And the guy working for the police officer was Castor. So that leaves Ryder. So I'm assuming the smoke is Ryder, and how it's assigned to be a master to Tsubaki is a question mark. Now, what's going on with the girl at the end, that's big, massive question mark. And it's funny because literally the last scene of this show is literally the guy that's on the cover art. So I'm assuming this Saber is special in some way. It's going to be possibly the main character. The guy at the very end, I don't know, what is he supposed to be, God or something like that, sitting in a chair looking at a bunch of information. I don't know if he's supposed to be a god, or maybe he's supposed to oversee the Holy Grail War. Maybe he's some sort of celestial being, or maybe he's just a mage of the Mage Association. I don't know. It seems to imply that he can't get involved, otherwise he'll alter fate. But he seems to be told by somebody to watch that girl. She's the outsider, the not mage. And the servant asking her if she's his master, she says, no, I'll never be what you guys want me to be again, or something like that. So it implies that she's been through this before. Like, she's been involved in the Grail War, or she's been used by somebody. The only thing I can assume is that she was a part of the group that was making the Holy Grail War. Maybe she was involved with the process of not allowing there to be a Saber. I don't know. We'll see with that. She's probably the biggest massive, besides Tsubaki, she's probably the biggest massive question mark as to what that and who this crazy girl is that apparently is an old hag that's hanging out with the police officer. Visually, I think my only issue that I've had so far, because it looks great. Like a lot of the scenes look fantastic. A lot of the expression on the characters' faces, a lot of the spell effects, the fight between Enkidu and Gilgamesh was amazing. My only trouble that I have so far is that there seems to be like this weird conflict between visual styles. Like in one end, it's very hyper detailed, very flashy, very filter affected with a bunch of nice flair and stuff to it. And then you have characters that are looking like they're really flat. Like they almost look too flat. But it's like a very minor issue that I have with it. It's sort of the same issues that I had with Fate Apocrypha. Fate Apocrypha had the same issue where you had like a lot of detail in the environment itself and the backgrounds, and the characters themselves look a little bit flat. I know a lot of the times whenever they're doing that, it's just to kind of allow for more animation to be added to it rather than it being rounded and it being more difficult to be more animated. But they could do both. I've seen them do both. Anyhow, that's all to say. Really, really fantastic start. Like I said, very gritty, very grounded, very fantastical at the same time. Great character setup so far, besides Flato. The OP mage kid that is just dumb and wants everybody to be friends. Curious to see how the things go with the police officer and the humans wielding noble phantasms and all that stuff, and what the hell's happening with the Tsubaki girl. But anyways, that's my thoughts on Fate Strange Fake. Again, super excited for the TV series. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for it to come out, but I'm super excited for it. I can't get enough of this guy's writing. This guy's writing is just too dang good. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to this channel, make sure that subscribe button's good on my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. I'll be doing first impressions for all the shows of the summer season. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support it more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and membership button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.